Earlier today, I had a live stream where I showcased ranking tier 10 tanks for new players. Now, I've unlisted the live stream just because of the fact I'm going to make a video on it, and I feel like it's kind of pointless to have a stream up and a video, both two separate things talking about the same points, so it's just easier to make a video on this than have the stream up as well, especially because Batchat was with me on the stream, and I want to have this fully based on my opinions. So, starting off, the thing I want to point out is obviously Meadsy can have his opinions. There's a lot of people that, like, when I did the stream, tried pointing out that I'm bashing somebody's opinions, but they're opinions. That's the whole point. If you can't argue somebody else's opinions, then why bother making them in the first place? That really doesn't make sense. So it should be good that people have arguments and discussions about what they believe, and that's what makes the game strong, and it's what allows balance to happen. So that is the first thing I'm going to say. But as I also want to point out, this isn't like a drama video. I'm not like personally attacking Meadsy. I am more just disagreeing with his opinions in ranking tier 10 tanks for new players. So I'm basically just going to do this video very simple. I'm going to play through it. I'm going to have my volume up quite high. I'm going to turn up the volume in this video. And I'm just going to let Meadsy talk about what his goal for the video is, what he's ranking the tanks by, and then I'll go off of each of the vehicles that he ranks. For any of you wondering why I'm making today's video, it's mainly because I feel almost obligated to point out a lot of the inaccuracies in his opinions and how just 90% of what he says when it comes to the hot takes are really just not correct. Don't get me wrong, anybody can have any opinion. I could say the earth is flat. It doesn't mean it's correct, and you can't just yell at somebody for disagreeing with somebody else in the comments. So let's get straight into it. Let's play this video.
But what we're going to do is we're going to rate these tier 10 tech tree tanks from worst to best for the average player. So I'm not rating them how I think that they're really good, like the best tier 10 tank or the worst tier 10 tank. What we're going to do is rate them from worst to best for the average player. So basically the worst tank in the game to grind for in tier 10 for an average to badish kind of player. For a good player, you're exempt. Like, we're not going to talk about good players in this video, basically.
So, the way Meadsy's wording it is a bit off from what he says later in the video, but essentially, as you can read in the title here, this video is for new players. So if your name is Bobby McDooferson and you're brand new to the game, you've got 500 battles, and you're just starting to figure out, what line do I want to go for? This is what that video is for. That's just clarification.
It is for the average kind of player that's not so good, that could do a bit of, learning and just a bit of advice. So there are literally 43 tanks to choose from in tier 10. Now, we're not going to choose premium tanks. We're only going to choose tech tree tanks. So the first one at number 43 is the FV4005. So this tank is a fantastic tank. It really, really is. But for a new player, it is a very, very difficult tank to play. It's got no armor. It's obviously got the auto loader as well. The reload is quite long. The speed's okay, but for a new player, I would definitely not recommend this tank.
Okay, fair enough. In the last place position with the 4005, it makes sense. This is not a vehicle that you're going to do all too well in when it comes to its armor only being 14 millimeters on the turret. I mean, sure, it's got a super deadly clip, which can deal 1,640 damage, and it does have 10 degrees of gun depression, even decent mobility. Unfortunately, those things are completely stripped away when you take a look at the vehicle's reverse speed, camo values after shooting, and its overall armor. This is a tank that if you make mistakes in, you will be massively punished. Now, if you understand how to drive it, it's really good. But even then, this is a super high skill cap vehicle. So yeah, I definitely agree that this is one of the worst vehicles for a newer player to grind. Let's see what he does for the next position.
So moving on to tank number 42. And we are choosing the TVP. Now, again, the TVP is a fantastic tank, really, really is. But like the FV4005, it is an auto-loader. It's got the 4 shells. It's got no armor whatsoever. And the DPM is not the same as those around it, where mediums in tier 10, the DPM is quite a lot less. For a good player, this tank is fantastic, but for a new player or an average kind of player, it is a very hard tank to play. Moving on.
Okay, so he says the TVP doesn't have the highest DPM, which is correct, but I don't really know if that's a fair argument because it is an autoloader, and obviously DPM doesn't really matter in clippers because you shoot 1200 damage, you back in the cover, and all you need to do is wait, you know, what is it, 20 seconds for the TVP, 19 seconds, and then you get your clip loaded again, you go back out and you do the same thing. So I don't necessarily feel like that's 100% true, especially because autoloaders have their shells all loaded in the beginning of the game. So I can very easily, right at the beginning, dump 1200 damage out and then add that on to whatever my base DPM is. So you really don't have bad DPM. You have very competitive DPM in this vehicle to any other medium. It's not a tank to be messed with. He also says that it has 0 armor. Side armor, that is true, but frontally I wouldn't fully agree with that. The upper plate, especially when using some gun depression or wiggling, is super troll. Same for the turret armor. This thing has 8 degrees of gun depression, and it's fairly good on turret armor because of the super troll mantlet. So, I mean, yeah, it doesn't have a lot of armor, but I definitely say it's much more effective than like the CS63 or the Leopard 1, AMX 30B. It's actually pretty troll armor. So, overall, I wouldn't agree with his opinion here already. This is definitely not the second worst tank. I mean, the 183 is 100% worse than this vehicle. There are a lot of vehicles I could name worse than this tank. The Grille 15, the Leopard 1. There's a lot of tanks that I would much rather fight an unskilled player in than a TVP. I mean, you see a lot of 40%ers that are new to the game just yoling right into the battle line with this tank and just clipping you for 1200. Even if they die, they still get a lot of damage out. So because of that, I actually think this is a fairly high tank. Maybe average, needs a little bit of skill, but it's a pretty easy tank to understand the playstyle of, and that's actually not too bad.
To number 41, we're sticking with the mediums. My old favourite, the Leopard 1. Again, this is a fantastic tank. Really, really good medium tank when you play it correctly. If you play it wrong, you are just going to get absolutely obliterated. So that is why this is quite far down the list. It is a very, very difficult tank to play.
I agree with his decision here. The Leopard is definitely one of the worst tanks. Again, I think the 183 or something else should fit in here, but the Leopard is easily one of the hardest tanks to play. One of the things I don't fully agree with Mita here, though, is he's not really explaining why they aren't good tanks. Just saying it's a difficult tank to play and it's fantastic doesn't really mean a whole lot. You know, if I was a new player watching this video, that doesn't really tell me a lot about the vehicle and why I shouldn't grind it. The reason the Leopard is not a good tank for a new player is because it features no armor with an insane amount of mobility and DPM. It's a vehicle that punishes people that overexpose themselves, but you will also get punished if you drive out in the open or try to make over-aggressive maneuvers. Because while you have all this DPM, you don't have hull-down capabilities. I mean, you got 8 degrees of gun depression, but you got no turret armor to work. So even if you do hide your hull and you're only showing your turret, if you're up against a Patton, E50M, STB, really anything, not only will they usually evenly trade with you if you both pen, but they're going to pen more of their shells. DPM is really only important if you are able to actually use the full extent of it, and you're not going to be YOLOing people in this tank, so because of that, it's one of the worst performing tier 10s in the game. It is the worst performing tier 10 medium.
Moving on, we are going to the Grille 15. Again, I absolutely love the Grille. Really, really love the Grille. Now, with this camouflage, looks absolutely fantastic. But you give the Grille to a new player, an unexperienced player, they are not going to do well in this tank at all.
Okay, I agree with this. Again, I would like to hear a bit more of an explanation on why the Grille's not too good. This is obviously because it has 0 armor. The thing is easily tracked, easily lit on fire. It doesn't feature a fully traversable turret, which is something I didn't know when I was a beginner to this game. When I had my first couple thousand games and the Grille line came out, I didn't realize that the tank couldn't fully traverse, and that was something that always caught me off guard. So, yeah, the Grille it's a strong tank. I mean, it's got a high rate of fire, it's got the best accuracy for a tier 10 TD, and it hits hard, 580 damage per shot. So it's a really nasty vehicle. Unfortunately, the Grille does not feature the things that you would want as a new player. Mostly armor, camo, forgiveness. You know, if you make a misplay in this vehicle, especially if you don't understand what spall liner is, you will get obliterated. So I fully agree. The Grille is actually the worst performing tier 10 tank destroyer for 45% players, even worse than the 183. So yeah, that showcases just how poor the Grille is in performance.
So yeah, the Grille at number 40. Coming in at number 39, we are sticking to the tank destroyers. We're going to go to the Russian and the Object 263. It's kind of fell out of love with the community over the years. Like, it's still a good tank, but people struggle in it. Some people can get good damage, but that is, again, experienced players. For the not-so-experienced player, the Object 263 is a very difficult tank to play. It's got speed, got a little bit of armor, got a good, fantastic DPM, but it's got no gun depression whatsoever. So the newer player will really struggle with the Object 263.
I agree with his opinion on this being one of the worst tanks for a new player, because obviously the 263 features insane DPM, just like the Leopard, but a lot of people get deluded by that. People think, oh, you got so much alpha or you got so much DPM and it's gonna mean something when you're in a brawl. It's not. If you don't have the gun depression or the armor to work a position, it doesn't matter if you have 10 million DPM, it just takes one person to outsmart you, sit, hold down, and if you can't pen them, it's not gonna matter. Now, I do disagree with him on the armor. The 263 in update 10.3 got mega buffed. The upper plate got buffed. The superstructure got buffed. The engine deck, which is underneath the gun, is now impervious. So the vehicle is actually insane in terms of armor. But it has track wheels, it has a weak lower plate, its side armor is terrible, and it's not turreted. Obviously, non-turreted vehicles are going to be harder to play than your generic heavy or medium. So the 263, I do agree. It's a tricky tank to play, especially with the only 4 degrees of gun depression, makes it super hard to work on any ridgeline. I think it's a very, very good tank. In fact, it's in the best state currently than it's ever been before, but it's still a vehicle that requires a bit of skill. After the 263 is where this video really starts to get spicy.
Moving on, we have the Bat Chat. At number 38, the Bat Chat. Again, it's a good autoloader. It's a good light tank, but for a new player, it really isn't the tank for you, the Bat Chat. So next up, we...
Again, not really explaining anything about the vehicle. I'd like to hear about the clip and why it struggles and this and that. In general, light tanks aren't going to be good for a new player. This is common sense. They are super mobile, they don't feature armor, and mainly you're going to be spotting for your team. And as a new player, A, you probably don't understand much about spotting mechanics, B, you don't understand much about view range and how it works, and you also don't know what you're really supposed to be doing. Am I supposed to be fighting mediums in a light tank? Am I supposed to be getting behind the heavies? The Batshed is a fantastic vehicle, but it's one of the highest skill cap tanks in the game. I'd be willing to say this is right up there next to the Leopard 1 in terms of skill level to actually perform well in. It features very little gun depression, which makes it super hard to go up against mediums, and while it does feature high DPM and now even 350 alpha, it doesn't really matter when you go up against a hull down E50M or Patton STB. It's just not going to be able to compete with that. So really fantastic light, but one that requires an insane amount of skill to do very well in. Again, not a bad opinion from Meadsy here.
We have tank number 37, and it is the Patton.
Yeah. This is where the video gets a bit spicy. I'm going to let him list why the Patton isn't very good. It's going to become a bit hypocritical later in this list, but we'll listen to what he says.
Now, the reason this is quite far down the list, because yes, it's got good DPM, it's got a fantastic turret, but that is about it. You know, it's a very tall tank. The hull on the tank is very, very weak. So if you don't play this correctly, which is basically in a hold down position, then you are not going to perform well at all. So tank number 36.
Okay, so as we just saw, the Patton is placed in position number 36. And that's pretty bad. I mean, that's within 10 tanks from 43. That would mean, in probably Meadsy's ranking, that this is a do not grind, which is absolutely baffling to me. The Patton, as I've made in previous videos aware of, is the best of all categories if you want a jack of all trades medium. It's literally a T110E5 turned into a medium. which is ironic because you're going to see him place the T-10 E5 in the top 5 heavies. So it doesn't make sense how you'd rate the E5 so high when it's a hull-down playstyle, which features really bad hull armor, super bad side armor, and it really only does well hull down, but then you're going to rank the Patton all the way down in 36th place? That makes no sense to me. This vehicle in update 10.3 has no turret cheeks anymore. They are now 330 base, while hull down they're 340. I showcased on live stream earlier that in E50M running calibrated shells cannot pen this vehicle hull down. Even heavies cannot pen this vehicle hull down. It is absolutely insane. And the comment about the hull being bad, I don't agree with either. The armor on the Patton is incredibly hard to pen. Not only are the track wheels super thick and they cause people to mess up where they're shooting and hit the tracks and bounce, but this whole entire side is a boat-shaped hull like this, meaning that if you hit the boat-shaped hull, it'll just ricochet right off. So very good armor there. It's also completely rounded on the front, which means if you hit any of the weird angles, it bounces right off. The vehicle features 3,560 DPM. It's got amazing gun depression, fantastic turret armor. It is the jack of all trades when it comes to mediums. I'd be willing to say that this is indeed the best tier 10 medium for noobs and newer players to grind and mess around with. This is the first vehicle that really baffled me and one of the major reasons why I wanted to make the video. But it gets worse.
We are going back to the heavies, and we've gone for the AMX 50B. In my opinion, one of the best autoloaders in tier 10. The tank is it's a heavy tank, but basically like a medium tank. It's got no armor whatsoever. You might get the odd bounce on the turret, but that is about it. And again, for a newer player, they will really struggle driving the AMX 50B.
Okay, I agree. The 50B is not a very good vehicle for newer players to grind. The tank has literally zero armor, especially after the update. They nerfed the entire hull of it. Yeah, it's not a tank I would recommend for new players. Sure, it's got a 1,540 damage clip, and it's got 3k DPM and fantastic mobility and reverse speed and traverse and all these things. But again, that doesn't really mean anything if you're driving a tank the size of a blimp, which is also about the same armor as a blimp. So not a bad take here.
Number 35, we have gone for the FV4202. Now, of course, the tank has two different guns. You can play it with the Hesh gun or you can play it with the heat gun. If you play it with the heat gun, then it just becomes a below par medium tank. You play it with the Hesh gun, it becomes fantastic, but you have to know how to use that Hesh. And most newer players won't know how to use that Hesh.
Well, here's the thing about the 4202. It's actually an amazing medium, and I'd be willing to say it's one of the better noob-friendly vehicles due to the fact that it features two separate guns. Why? Well, the Hesh gun actually got nerfed in the latest update of the game. It lost 200 damage per minute, and the heat gun gained 200 damage per minute. This is really weird for me to say, but the heat gun is actually better on the 4202 right now than the Hesh gun is. Even if you're firing Hesh, you're going to have more DPM with the heat gun effectively. So there's really no point to use the heat gun or the Hesh gun on the 4202. It's got 3,300 DPM at the heat, and it's got really good pen, really good accuracy, decent aiming time. So at that point, I don't really even personally get the point of using the Hesh on the 4202. And if you take a look at the vehicle itself, it's really well armored. The entire upper plate's 300 mils thick, which is insane for a medium. The turret is around 260, which means most standard shells are going to bounce right off. It's got gun depression and ridiculous mobility, reaching 60 with a power to weight similar to the Leopard 1. It's actually a really good vehicle. And the best thing about it is that you can stick with the heat gun. And if you ever want to practice with Hesh, you can swap right over to the other gun. It'll make your skill a little bit harder to achieve, but it'll give you two playstyles in one. So I do agree a bit that the 4202 shouldn't be very high up on the list. It's not an easy tank to drive, but at the same time, I don't think it should be this far down. I just want to point out to you guys now, where's the 183? Well, just keep waiting. We're going to be waiting a while.
Moving on to tank 34, we've gone with the STB.
Before I even let him talk, what? The STB in 34th is what he said. And yes, it is indeed in 34th position. I am absolutely baffled how somebody could put what is arguably the best tier 10 medium in this position. Now, I would understand if you said, well, the line to get up to the vehicle is super challenging, because it is. The Type 61, the STA1, even the Chiri and Cheeto, all super challenging vehicles. They get bullied. But at the same time. The tier 10, which is what we're only focusing on here, is insane. Even if you're a newer player, the STB is literally the jack of all trades, just like the Patton. It has 11 degrees of gun depression. It just got premium AP, which means you don't even lose alpha damage on the premium ammo. You go 10 damage shorter or something like that. It's insane. The vehicle got a DPM buff, now sitting at 3,360, which makes it really high. It's got armor, not only hull down, but even on the upper plate. It's just troll armor. You can't HE it anywhere. The STB is, quite simply put, the best medium for the majority of situations. It is just like the Patton. I would still say the Patton is a bit more noob-friendly due to its overall design and playstyle, but the STB is right on its tail. Again, this tank being ranked in 34th position it's sad, really. It's a complete failure for this tank. I completely disagree with this, and yeah, I'm not really sure what else to say.
Now, the STB has been changed recently for the good, but again, it's not quite got the DPM, pretty much almost, but the reload is a bit longer. The armor on it is non-existent, except again for the turret. Like the Patton, the turret on the thing is absolutely fantastic, but you put it in the wrong position, you're going to get ripped apart by a lot of the enemy tanks.
You see, again, I don't really agree with that. Like, you put any tank in the wrong position, it's going to get ripped apart. Like, later in the video, he's going to showcase the Object 140, like 20 slots above. In fact, I have the list here. He puts the Object 140 in 19th place, okay? That is almost double the position of an STB. How is that possible? You make the argument that this tank gets ripped apart when it's out in the open, and an Object 140 is not going to, and you placed it literally almost 20 slots above? Nah, no, there's no way. The DPM is fantastic. It's not as high as the highest DPM mediums, but it is more than enough to get the job done. Vehicles like the CS63, which I just want to point out, we have not even reviewed yet on this list, are somehow higher ranking, even though this tank has more armor, more DPM, better accuracy. I just, again, very confused. I do not agree with his opinion here, even slightly.
Tank number 33, we are going back to tank destroyers, and we are going to the Jaegeru.
Oh, also, one other thing I thought I'd talk about with the STB is that it is currently the #1 performing tier 10 medium for not only 45% win rate players, but average players as well, at 56%. You can either take a look at this on BlitzStars or Blitz Analysis if you don't believe me. So not only is the tank, like, statistically doing well, but clearly I disagree.
Again, a very strong tank. The armor profile, it got stronger, the cheeks got stronger, but the lower plate is extremely weak. And again, for a new player, they'll struggle to play this tank. They won't know how to angle the tank. They're just going to get ripped apart all day long. Now, the same kind of...
Okay, so here's my 2 cents on this. The Jag is not the most noob-friendly vehicle, I will admit. It's a vehicle that gets picked apart pretty quickly against mediums and lights because it's large, it's got very little side armor, it's got some of the worst camo in tier 10. But again, I want to point out that you have not listed the 183 yet in this list. How can you argue that a Jag is worse than a 183? You say, oh, you need to know how to angle and you'll get picked apart if you go in the open. And you're not going to in a 183? The 183 is the worst camo in the game, the worst accuracy in the game. And now its Hesh got nerfed, and the vehicle has worse reverse speed in the latest update of the game. The vehicle has way worse armor than the Jag. It also doesn't have a fully traversing turret. I just don't understand it. I also would probably place the Jag a bit higher up, but overall, not the worst placing for this vehicle.
Except for it's not a tank destroyer, it is a heavy. The next one, tank 32, we've gone for the E100.
What? No, I'm sorry. There is no argument to why the E100 is ranked in 32. Let's hear what he has to say, and then I'll make my remarks.
Basically the same thing with as the Jaegeru, the Jagdpanzer E100. Same kind of turret, same lower plate, very, very weak. Now the turret again has been strengthened, but if you don't angle this tank correctly, you're just getting ripped apart. And again, that brings me to the next.
Okay, so you heard what he said. The vehicle gets ripped apart because you don't know how to angle it. All right. Well, before I get angry, let me pull up Blitz Analysis. This is something I always do. I remember I had a video arguing with Happy like 2 years ago about the 268 version 4 and how TDs are the worst win rate tanks. And Blitz Analysis proved me right there, and we're going to use it once again, okay? We're looking at Blitz Analysis. This is a website that grabs all the data from the Blitz servers and compiles them so we can read the data. And if we look at average win rate, we can see 0 to 45% players and how they perform, what they do the best and what they do the worst in. Would you like to see what the number 1 and 2 tanks are? The number 1 performing heavy for 0 to 45% win rate players in just the previous update was the Mouse. You know what the next one was? The E100. I don't know what else to say. This completely proves my point already. The E100 is the second highest performing heavy. Sure, you have to angle the vehicle, but that doesn't mean anything. You have to angle an IS-4. You have to know what side scraping is. You have to do that with the IS-7. You have to do that with the E5. I mean, if you don't know how to angle, you're going to do bad in any tank. You know what the E100 has? A 680 damage per shot gun, very high pen, and a massive 2,912 hit points, making it almost impossible to clear. Even if you don't deal that much damage, if you just use your hit points as a massive sponge for your team, you are helping your team win. The E100 is by far one of the noob-friendliest tier 10s. The line itself is fantastic. The Tiger 1, VK3601H, Tiger 2, and the E75 are some of the best heavies in the game, and finishing off with the E100 is just the cherry on top. That is by far a terrible take. It is nowhere near 32nd place. And while I wouldn't put it in first place, it is definitely not the worst heavy in tier 10, not even by far. The fact that this vehicle is in 32nd place is mind-boggling to me. And then we break into the Mouse, and he's going to use the same argument. People don't know how to angle the Mouse. People aren't going to do well because of that. You're forgetting that the thing has 3,200 hit points. And by the way, those stats of update 10.2 I was showcasing to you here, this isn't even the latest update. The Mouse got more DPM and more hit points, and the track wheel bug, which was a huge problem, got buffed. The Mouse is the number 1 performer for new players. Again, just does not make sense. I mean, the stats clearly prove it, and I don't really think I need to say much else. Both of these German super heavies are amazing tanks for newer players to grind. They reward you for players making mistakes. If you make mistakes, you have enough health to benefit off of that. I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. Let's keep going.
Tank, the Mouse. Same kind of thing. If you don't angle this tank, you are getting penetrated by everybody. And I doubt a newer player will know how to angle. Because with these tanks, not just the Mouse, the E100, the Jaegeru, you have to angle them correctly. And not only have you got to angle your hull, but you've also got to angle your turret. Because you start angling just your hull, your cheeks are very, very weak. So you have to angle basically the whole tank. So that is why the Mouse is down this list quite far as well. Moving on, we're going to light tanks.
Okay, but why isn't the VK72 there? I mean, I'd very easily argue that the VK72 is the hardest out of the 3 to play, and again, that makes sense. We can go pull up stats of 10.2, and we can see that the VK72 is quite a bit further down, like 4 slots down from the E100 and Mouse. You know why? Because the vehicle requires angling. And it's not just angling, you actually have to properly angle it. It's not like the E100 where you can just pull out and slap somebody. The VK72 has terrible side armor because it has no spaced armor. Its turret is only good if you're looking at one opponent, and it's really only good when you're using it either hull down or you're properly trading with opponents. I would easily argue that the VK72 requires much more skill, especially on angling, than the E100 and the Mouse. Yet you're going to see that vehicle finish way ahead. I think it makes it even to the top 10.
And we're going for the Vickers Light. And again, you know...
Okay, so I want you guys to think about this, okay? The Vickers Light, one of the worst performing light tanks in 10.3 due to the alpha nerf, is above an E100, an STB1, a Mouse, an M48 Patton in terms of skill required to play. How is this possible? I don't understand it. This tank is 10 times harder to play than an STB. You actually have to know how to position. You have to know how to use the gun. It's got much less alpha. It's got no armor. And you have to know how to use the Hesh to make the... I
just had to add this in. I'm looking in, yeah, it's a good tank, but again, for a new player, they'll struggle. It has got good DPM for what it is. It's very, very quick, doesn't have any armor. You might be able to get the troll bounce on the turret, but again, that is about it. And for a new player, I just think anyone in any other tank will just tear you apart. We're sticking to light tanks. This time, we've gone for the Chinese 1321.
Again, just want to point out, this vehicle is in front of the E100, the Mouse, the STB, even though it's literally just a worse STB. In fact, I'd be willing to say right now the WZ-132-1 is a flat worse Leopard in just about every stat. Its accuracy, DPM, even its view range, and even mobility is worse on this tank. So again, there's no consistency in this tier list, or it's not even a tier list, it's a I don't know what you'd call it.
Excuse me. Same kind of thing with the Vickers, you know, it's okay, doesn't have any armor whatsoever, and newer players will really, really struggle with this tank. Probably one of the worst light tanks for people, newer players in the game, definitely. So we're going to stick to Chinese, but this time we're going to go to tank destroyers, the WZ-113GFT.
Again, not sure why this tank is so far down the list. The 113 GFT is by far one of the best tier 10 tank destroyers. It is completely misunderstood. The entire superstructure in 10.3 was buffed. It is now 360 millimeters thick on flat ground with enhanced armor. The only vehicles that can pen it are either tall super heavies or vehicles that have high pen with heat. No mediums whatsoever can pen this tank destroyer. It is actually insane how well armored the 113 GFT is. This is probably the most forgiving tank destroyer that you can play in the majority of situations due to the way the armor is designed. And it's being positioned in 27th place. Again, where is the 183? Well, let's keep on going.
I love this tank. I really do love this tank. But yeah, you've got to know how to play it. The armor profile is pretty good, to be fair. But again, for a newer player, you really do have to position yourself really, really well to be successful in this tank. And the same...
See, here's the problem with the tier list. And, like, don't get me wrong, I always like when people post more content and they try to help people. But you're not telling me anything about the tank. What you said is that it's got really good armor, you really like the tank, and you have to know how to position it. What does that mean? Like, I could say that for any tier 10. I could go pull out the vehicle in the #1 position and say, it's a really good tank, it's got fantastic armor, but you have to know how to position it. Is there any tier 10 that you will do well in if you position improperly? If you're on mines and you drive a Type 71 over Mines Hill, guess what? It doesn't matter what tank you're in, you're gone. I don't understand this. Like, I want to hear proper reasons and arguments to why these tanks are ranked in these positions. There is no reasoning, and it's making it very hard for me to understand the thought process that Meadsy is making here. Again, if there's proper reasoning, then that's completely fine. But right now, I'm just looking at a vehicle that he's calling fantastic on armor, great mobility, it's got a super solid gun, high DPM, and yet it's being thrown all the way back in, you know, the terrible positions.
Pretty much almost exactly the same tank, the Object 268. Same kind of thing. You have to angle it. You have to be in the right position.
You have to angle it. You don't angle a 268. The thing's got a pike nose. You just stay frontally.
At the right time to be successful in these tanks. Moving on to...
Again, nothing about the tank's alpha. The fact that it has 690 damage per shot now. The fact that it has incredibly troll armor. 7 degrees of gun depression, a top speed of 48. Really good reverse speed. Fantastic pen, DPM. This is easily the best tier 10 tank destroyer for a new player. Easily. It's the jack of all trades. It allows you to understand positioning. It allows you to have some decent armor, mobility, alpha. It has everything. It also features the best camo for a tier 10 tank destroyer.
And that's basically the Progetto. The Progetto 65, fantastic medium tank. If you play it right, you will really be successful in this tank. It is an auto reloader, which I prefer over auto loaders because you get to play them how you want to play them. You could play it as an auto loader, you could play it as a single shotgun, or you can just shoot twice, reload once. You could do whatever you want in the thing. But there's some situations that you're going to be in where you're going to have to reload maybe 2 shells or 3 shells and not just keep firing 1 shell. And a newer player won't really get the grips with that. They won't know what to reload and when to reload. And that's why my next tank at tank 20...
Okay, so I somewhat understand his reasoning, but I also have to slightly disagree. I actually think the Progetto is the best medium for somebody to start understanding autoloaders in. Now, that doesn't mean that it's a super noob-friendly vehicle. I think it should be a bit higher up on the list, maybe like 15th place, 14th place, somewhere around there. Nothing in the top 10. But it definitely shouldn't be in 25th place. The vehicle has really good DPM, especially after the latest update. The tank single-shot DPM is 2,900. That is without even counting the 2 additional shells you get. So even if you do what he said, and you dump your clip and you need those extra shells, you really don't need the shells. I mean, you've got plenty of DPM. Sure, you might be a little bit out-damaged, but you'll still have plenty to hold off the fort. And as long as you can just start reloading your clip, you're going to be fine. This isn't a reserve shell tank like the Caro, where if you dump that final shell, you're really killing yourself. You'll actually be fine in this vehicle. And if I'm not mistaken, you have more DPM in the Progetto when you dump your clip than you do saving your shells. So it's actually just a flat benefit. Overall, the Progetto is just a fantastic medium. Add that into the fact it's got really good armor on the front. It's super troll on the upper plate. Even the turret's pretty troll. I actually think it's a pretty good beginner tank. I mean, everything about it's super solid. So yeah, I'd actually say the Progetto is a great barrier to not only learn more about how autoloaders work, because you get to learn how to store shells, but also if you're ever in a tricky situation, you can just shoot as a single shot. So it's kind of best of both worlds. So I don't think his take is terrible, but I do think it should be a little bit higher.
25, we have stuck with the auto reloading crew, and it is the Kranvagn. Exactly the same, you know, fantastic turret on the tank. The hull is very, very weak, but just like the Progetto, you really need to know how to use that auto reloader. So tank 24.
Okay, I agree with him there. The Kran is a vehicle that noobs don't do well in. I don't know why. It's a very simple playstyle. You hide the hull armor. That's it. You're impervious. I mean, if people just had common sense, it would be one of the best tier 10s for anybody to drive. It's still one of my top performers. But every time I make a video saying how darn good the tank is, there's always that same new player or not so great player that says, oh, the Kran sucks, it doesn't have DPM, which is just wrong. Effectively, the Kran has over 3,500 DPM if you use it properly. I'm not going to explain why that is the case right now, but I've tested it. I've properly figured out the numbers. It's about 3,500 if you use it correctly with your DPM. Just people don't do it. So the Kran is amazing when it comes to that. It's now super mobile in the latest update. It's still got the armor, and it's actually got a buff on its DPM. So it's just an amazing tank. But I do have to agree with Meadsy. Nobody understands how to use the auto reloader. This vehicle actually loses DPM when you dump the clip. The Progetto gains. That's why the Prog should be higher up on the list, and the Kran's definitely deserving a place like this because you need skill to drive the Kran. It's not an easy tank.
Or is the FV215B. Now
this is just rather confusing to me. The FV215B is the worst performing tier 10 heavy. It's the worst. Like, I can pull up the stats if you really, really want. We can go do that really quick, and we can go to heavies, and then we just scroll down to 45% players. Look at that, right there. FV2 and 5B, worst on the list. Why is it the worst performing heavy? It has no armor. It has an amazing gun, like the best gun in tier 10 for a heavy. Doesn't mean crap when the vehicle's hull is terrible. It's a rear turreted tank, but it doesn't have any side scraping capabilities. It has some of the weakest track wheels in the game, and it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if this thing, again, had 10 million DPM like I used as the Leopard argument. It is never going to be a proper heavy. The fact that even the 50B beat this thing is very impressive to me. The 2 and 5B does not deserve to be this high on the list in number 23. Why is the Progetto lower? Why is the Kranvagn lower? Why is the Mouse? Why is the E100? How is it easier to drive an FE2 and 5B Meadsy than pulling out an E100 and a Mouse? I don't understand it. This is where I keep getting confused. How is it easier to drive this tank than an M48 Patton? I mean, I'm seriously getting really confused because I just don't understand how you can come to these conclusions.
It's a real struggle for new players. It is a rear turreted tank.
Yep.
Of course, if you get on a ridge, you're not going to be able to get your gun over. So again, you're going to have to angle your tank enough to get that gun depression down, but you don't want to angle it too much because you're just not going to be successful in it. You're just going to get penned by everything. So that is why this tank is number 24.
I mean, he says everything that I would have said about it. I would have added, like, the armor's terrible, but, I mean, he's not wrong, but I don't understand why it's sitting in this position then. Like, it just, okay.
Next up, tank number 23 is the Chinese 121. Now, if this 121 was how it used to be when it first came into the game, it'd probably be at the bottom of the list, but since Wargaming gave it good reload, they hired the Alpha, it's actually a pretty solid medium tank. It's not a brawler though. It's got good DPM. I wouldn't say it's a brawler. Yes, it has the high alpha and it's got a very, very nice turret, but you can't rush in there like you can with some of the other medium tanks because you will get torn apart, especially for a newer player. So,
are there any mediums you can rush in and get away with that? Like, let's say you're on dead rail on medium side. Is there any medium that you would be willing to YOLO right to the enemy mediums in? Maybe a T-22, but even then you don't have the DPM to really fight the Leopard or a TD that's sitting in the back. I don't really agree with that take there, to be honest. The vehicle's also, in my opinion, only meant to be a brawling medium. The thing has really good turret armor, but not only that, it has one of the strongest hulls. Only the 62A now after the buff has a stronger upper plate than the 121. This thing has 250 millimeters of armor on that upper plate. Angled properly, using a bit of gun depression, it's actually really good at getting bounces. Add that into the fact the thing's got an insane aiming time, high alpha, now it has tungsten. I mean, I'd be willing to say this is one of the best mediums. Even the tier 9 got buffed to a point now where it's fantastic. The tier 8's really solid. I wouldn't say that this is the best medium, because it's not. There are mediums that are better. But I would still very easily be willing to say that the 121 is absolutely fantastic. By the way, something that's interesting I noticed while watching this clip, top 20 mediums by 45% win rate players in performance. Look at that. Progetto 65 is the #1 medium. Yes, you heard that right. It is the #1 medium. Now, this is 10.2, so obviously there's been changes to the matchmaker, or not the matchmaker, but the tanks. But this is just proof and an exact example why I believe the Progetto is such a good medium. It is literally the perfect balance between auto-reloading and having DPM and everything. So I still stand strong by the Progetto being one of the best mediums. Look at this. TVP, he ranked this the 2nd worst medium. It is the 3rd best performing, and if we cut out the T-22, because again, it's only tech trees, it's the 2nd best. Patton is right up there next to the 62A. The 121, it's not doing great, but it's still a pretty solid vehicle in overall performance. So, yeah, I mean, I really can't complain all too much.
So number 23. Coming in at number 22, the same kind of thing, the WZ-113. Now, this tank is really only good for DPM. Fantastic DPM. It's got a good turret, but that is about it. And because of how slow the traverse is, the turret traverse, the tank's slow, you're a new player, anybody, even with your DPM, they are going to be able to take you out quite easily.
I'm confused. Has Meadsy not been playing Blitz for like the last 2 years? Because the 113's traverse speed got buffed in 9.1. We are at update 10.3. The 113 turns faster than probably 80% of the tier 10 heavies. Not only that, but it has some of the best mobility in tier 10, reaching a top speed of 45. It actually got buffed more on the mobility in 10.3. How can you sit here and say the tank isn't mobile? It's slow. It's one of the fastest heavies. I agree with the fact that it doesn't have a lot of armor, but That's just wrong. It's easily one of the most mobile heavies. I mean, sure, if you compare it to a 50B, maybe it's not, but compare it to any other heavy, it's pretty dang fast. Also, again, this is being ranked above an E100. This is being ranked above a mouse. Am I in the wrong here for thinking this? Or, like, I don't get it. The 113 is probably one of the highest skill cap heavies in tier 10. In fact, once again, if we were to go back to that chart showcasing the best and worst performing vehicles for 45%ers, the 113 is the second to the worst, right next to the 2 and 5B. It's common sense. The thing has no armor on the hull. It's very easily cut through. It's not got the best side armor. It has no spaced armor whatsoever. I don't understand why it's being put so high up on the list in position 21. It's not, great on the list position, but it just doesn't make sense being this high up.
Moving on, tank number 21, we have gone for another medium tank, the CS-63. Now,
this is the part of the video that actually makes my brain die a little bit. Midzi, if you watch this, please just explain to me how you can possibly put the CS-63 above the Progetto, M48 Patton, and STB-1. If you can legit give me any reasons to why this tank is better than just the STB alone, I'd be happy to hear. The thing has worse DPM than the STB because you're going to be running gear oil, so you're not going to run double food. The tank has worse gun depression than the STB. It has worse penetration because the STB has now premium AP. The tank has worse mobility than the STB-1, and it has way, way worse armor. How do you go and argue that the STB is in position 33 and the Patton is in position 36 when this tank, which is worse in every single stat, is in this position? Where is it? It's position 20? Whoa, I don't even know what to say. I mean, maybe he just forgot this tank existed and he was like, crap, I need to throw it in this video, but I'm seriously completely baffled. I mean, again, there's going to be people that stand up for Meadsy in the comment section. I dare any person that stands up for Meadsy to give me a single reason on how the CS-63 is better than an STB. And if you want to sit there and tell me that it is, go send me your stats of the CS-63 and the STB, and we'll see which tank you perform better in. Or even the Patton, because I guarantee there is no way in hell you're doing better in this Polish medium.
The Russian medium tank. Now, I've got the Object 140 first because...
Now, there's no way the Object 140, again, is performing better for newer players with its newly nerfed turret and hull armor compared to an STB, a Patton, a Progetto. I mean, heck, I'd probably prefer a Vickers Light over this thing for new players. All it has is DPM, and that is it. Okay, let's hear what he has to say.
It just struggles against some of the others. It's got good DPM, fantastic DPM. The tank looks really, really good.
Cool.
The turret is what lets this thing down. Non-existent. The hull's not bad. You can actually get some bounces on the hull, but yeah, you can't rely on the armor.
Let me just point this out now. On the stream that I showcased this video the first time on, the Object 140 hull was able to be penned by a Tier 7 medium, the VK3001D. It has 190 millimeters of premium pen, and it completely cut through the 140's upper plate. The 140's hull armor got flat nerfed in the latest update of the game. It's 170 mils effective now. The turret is 200 at thickest. This is by far the worst Tier 10 medium for newer players to experiment with. Right up there next to the Leopard 1. It might be a little bit better, but you have less gun depression. I just completely baffled on how this made it so high up on the list. Position number 19. Just, okay. He made the argument earlier that the Patton, and most specifically I remember him saying the STB, will get caught out in the open if you drive it improperly. And this tank's not. The 140 isn't going to get caught out in the open if you drive it improperly. Okay. Okay.
So yeah, the object 140, number 20. Number 19, we're going to go for the light tank, the T100 Light. Again, fantastic DPM, really good speed, really, really low to the ground. But for a newer player, everybody's going to pen you. You've got to pick your targets wisely. You've got to run around the map, you know, choose where you're going. And yeah, it's just going to be quite hard for a not so experienced player.
Yes, that's because this is indeed a light tank. And light tanks, as Meadsy said, require skill and brains to do well in. And that is something that newer players don't have. Again, how is this above the other mediums? I'm not even going to keep listing the medium, the STB, and the Patton, because I've said it like 30 times at this point. But seriously, there's no argument on how this tank can be above those vehicles. This is 100 times harder to drive than a hull-down medium. As Meadsy said, it has no armor. You have to know how to drive this tank, properly outposition your opponents. And again, lights are such an important playstyle on the battlefield. I would never, ever recommend a new player to ever grind a light. At least get a couple thousand games before you go for one.
Next up, the T62A. Fantastic tank, one of the best medium tanks in the game. It's got a strongish turret that you can get bounces. It's got good DPM, it's got good rate of fire, it's got good gun depression. It is really, really a good tank, but you put this tank in the wrong hands, then they'll make it look bad. They really, really would. But
I'm pretty sure you can, again, give a Type 71 player bad hands and he would do really bad in the tank. I'm pretty sure you could get a 268 version 4 player, which is the #1 performing tank, to do really bad if he improperly drives it. Again, not a valid argument. But I do agree with him on the fact that the tank is fantastic. Again, I don't think Meadsy actually knows really the changes that have happened in 10.3, because he left out the fact that in the latest update, the armor got mega buffed on this vehicle. It is now the strongest medium tier 10 on all of armor. I mean, the upper plate is 280 mils. The turret is 300. It is actually so strong that it is being used in comp as YOLO mediums. This is, in fact, probably one of the only mediums next to the T22 I'd actually say you can play like an absolute ape and get away with. So, yeah, again, this one is a little confusing because I would expect it to be way further down on the list, maybe like position 10. But you'll see, it gets worse.
But in the right hands, this tank is really good. I love the T62A. Moving on is one of the best, what I would think one of the best medium tanks for newer players is the E50M, and mainly because it's got good DPM, it's got good armor, and you can actually make errors in the tank and still get away with it.
So here's a good question for you, right? The E50M, for any of you that are unaware, is based off of the E75. I mean, you can very easily see that from the design of the vehicle. Now, last time I checked, Meadsy tried saying that you need to properly angle the E100 and angle the mouse to do well in the vehicle. This is a massive German medium, which does very well if you properly side scrape. And it has a massive lower plate, just like the E100, which he mentioned before. So it's a little confusing to me on why he says this tank's amazing, but the E100 isn't. I mean, I agree, the E50M is a very solid noob tank. I wouldn't put it as high as the Patton, because the turret armor on the E50M isn't as good. If you look at a different person, it can become very weak. It doesn't have as much gun depression, it's 8 degrees, and the vehicle itself is very large. It's actually a super easy tank to catch out. People in the E50M think that they can just get away with rushing because it's this big, heavy medium, and you can't. I would much rather be in a 62A or even a Progetto over an E50M as a new player. It's a great tank, but one thing that people always get confused on is that it's not really that good at YOLOing. You have to wait for opponents to make mistakes before you can ram them. You can't just go full balls to the walls. So I don't disagree with him placing it high up on the list, but the same arguments to this tank being a good medium are the same arguments I could make for an STB and a Patton. It's good hull down, its lower plate is massive, and this thing's got way bigger sides and worse camo, so, oh well.
So yeah, this is why I think the E50M is one of the best medium tanks for the non-good players. Like the newer player, it's still one of the best mediums. Tank number 16, we're getting there, the top 16 tanks. We've gone for the VZ55. Again, just an average tank, nothing too special about it, nothing like really, really good about it. It's
So again, you're placing the VZ above the above the E100 in mouse. This is the most average tier 10 in the game. First of all, the line is super painful. The TNH 105 100 is not an easy tank for anybody to grind, especially stock. And the tier 9 has basically negative armor and is a terrible stock grind. Trust me, I know, because I played it on my free-to-play account. And the tier 10 isn't anything amazing either. I mean, Wargaming buffed it slightly in 10.3, but not enough. The side armor is terrible, the lower plate is incredibly weak, and it's got a hatch that you don't even have enough gun depression to hide. It's only got 7 degrees of gun depression to begin with. Again, it's not a bad tank, but it's not a noob-friendly vehicle by any means, and I would never recommend a newer player to grind for this tank. There is legit nothing about it that is exciting or even remotely good, but let's keep going.
It's okay, it's not a bad tank by all means, but yeah, just I think people will struggle. The non-experienced players, I think they will struggle with the tank. They'll be able to do a little bit of damage, but they're not going to be able to block much damage. And yeah, it's this is why it is number 16. So moving on to tank number 15. We have gone for the Minotauro. It is a difficult tank to play, and I was looking at this thinking, wow, for an auto reloader, it is, and with the reserve shell as well, I put it really far down the list. But as even using the reserve shell, yes, I would never recommend using that reserve shell, but this tank has it all. It's got good alpha, it's got a good gun, it's got good armor, and I think newer players will get away with a little bit with the tank, but if they do start using that reserve shell all the time, then they will struggle.
Okay, I agree and disagree. I think it should be higher up on the list. It's a noob-friendly tank. In fact, this is one of the most noob-friendly vehicles. We all already know that, like the 268 version 4, is the #1 performing tank destroyer. Why? Because it's heavily armored, and all heavily armored TDs perform well. And that's the exact same case for the Minnow. And if we make our way over to tank destroyers on this list over here, we wait for it to load, scroll down to 45% players, the Minnow is the second highest performing tank. And again, if we take out the V4, because we're not showcasing collectors here, it's the #1 performing TD. Why is it the #1 performing TD? First of all, entirely the front is nearly impervious to AP. That is insane. When you're in the noob matchmaker, because you will be for your first 5,000 games, this tank is broken. It really is. I mean, on my EU accounts, I've been messing around with it, and it's ridiculous. It's got plenty of gun depression at 10 degrees. It hits hard. I don't agree with Meadsy on this thing having a good gun. Its accuracy is dookie, and it's not the most pen for a TD, but it's just the fact that the vehicle has so much armor. Even if you dump the reserve shell, you hit so dang hard at 490, it's actually a dangerous tank. And I think one of the other reasons why the vehicle isn't doing too bad statistically is because people get punished when they dump that reserve shell. And sooner or later, they're going to have to figure out that you shouldn't be shooting it. So this, I don't agree with him. He actually put it quite high, and I wouldn't expect the normal person to. So yeah, I actually, I don't mind him placing it here.
So if we put it as people were going to use the reserve shell, this is probably one of the difficult tanks to play. But if they don't shoot that last shell, it is one of the best tank destroyers for a new player. Moving in at number 14, we have gone for the Foch 155.
Yes, you heard that right, ladies and gentlemen. Meadsy is placing the Foch in number 14. What? What? The Foch. A vehicle that has some of the worst side armor in tier 10. You can literally HE the crap out of this thing with a 150. Heck, even some 130s can HE the side of the Foch. The rear is 40 mils thick, and it's a big ol' box. The frontal armor, while strong, is nothing incredible. This is one of the worst performing tier 10 tank destroyers. Look at the list. Object 268 version 4, Minnow, Jag, E4, 113 GFT, E3, Badger, 268, Hori, Foch. Right next to the 263 and 4005. And I'd be willing to say that the 263 is better than the Foch at this point because it's got more DPM. So that's my honest reply.
Fantastic.
What did I do to my YouTube here? There you go. No, I'm sorry, Meadsy. This is not even an opinion, this is one of the worst noob-friendly vehicles. It has terrible track wheels. You're going to drive way too aggressive. Its gun is not accurate. No, I'm sorry. There's no way. I just, no.
Again, it's still a difficult tank to play, but because of the speed, because of the auto-loader, the armor as well is okay for a newer player. If they play it like a tank destroyer, then they'll play pretty good. But if they play it using the speed of the tank, like going front line, then yeah, they're not going to perform very well in the tank.
So here's a question. You just said if they use it like a tank destroyer, they're going to do well. And if they use their speed, they're going to do bad. So why is the 113 GFT not in front of this tank then? Why is the 268 not in front of this tank? Not only do they hit harder, not only do they have more accurate guns, not only do they have more DPM, not only does the 113 GFT have more armor, but they also like don't have the downside of having a super derpy, auto-loading gun. The whole point of the Foch is actually to be played frontline. Like, that's the whole point. It's like a midline aggressive dumping tank. Watch any video I've ever made on the Foch, and you're going to see me playing midline. Again, this is by far, like, one of the worst tank destroyers for noobs to play.
But still, in my opinion, number 14. Moving in at number 13, we've gone with the Sheridan. Now, it is a difficult tank to play.
It's a light. I agree that the Sheridan is pretty busted, but it's busted in the hands of a player that has a couple brain cells. If you're a newer player rolling into World of Tanks Blitz, you are not going to do anything in the Sheridan. The vehicle has lackluster DPM, it has negative armor, its view range just got nerfed, and every other medium will crap on you. There is no way that you are ranking a light tank in the 13th place when you are ranking, again, the STB, the Patton, the Progetto, the 121, the 62A, and the E50M way further down. Like, is it just me? I don't know what to say. I really don't. I don't.
I'm not going to lie. For a new player, but the fact that it's got the speed...
Wait, what did he say?
I'm going to lie. We've gone with the Sheridan. Now, it is a difficult tank to play, I'm not going to lie. For a new player...
It is a difficult tank to play for a new player. That is why I have ranked it in almost the top 10 position for one of the easiest tanks for new players to play. Okay, that makes sense, guys.
But the fact that it's got the speed, it's a light tank, it's got high alpha... People can still be successful running around shooting HE. And
running around shooting HE. You heard it here, folks. You should shoot HE in your light because that'll get him good. This is a T49, except it's not because the HE alpha is pretty mediocre on this tank. And if you only shoot HE, I will be sure to make a video calling you bad.
And that's sometimes all you need to do with the tank. Run around, shoot HE, and run off.
So yes, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Just in case you weren't clarified, he doubled down and said you should shoot HE in your light tanks. Again, anybody that wants to defend Meadsy here and his thought process and opinions, please try to defend that statement on how you should only be shooting high explosive in your Sheridan, and that's why it's an easy tank to drive, because HE's a simple shell. Okay, I'll let you come up with a rebuttal for that one.
So yeah, a newer player will be more successful in this tank than most of the other light tanks. Because of the high alpha and the speed, they could just take the shot and run away, and they might get lucky with a bounce on the way. Moving in, number 12, we are going to stick to American tanks. We've gone for the T57 Heavy.
Again, you're ranking a 57 Heavy above a Mouse, an E100. I mean, heck, even like the 113, I'd say, is probably easier in certain situations. This is not a tank that is easy. The T57 Heavy has been consistently buffed over and over and over. It got shell reload boost, and it's just finally in 10.3 when Wargaming nerfed it. But they nerfed it hard. It went from 3k DPM to 2500. That means you now have less DPM than even a VZ55 running rammer. When you pair that to the fact that this thing has 0 hull armor, its turret, while Troll still doesn't have really any armor, this is not a noob-friendly vehicle, not even remotely. I would rank this right up there next to maybe the 113, similar spot to probably the 215B. It's definitely better than a 215B, but not a whole lot.
Again, an autoloader, fantastic, good DPM for an autoloader.
It's really not good DPM anymore. It's pretty average, to be honest.
It's slow, but it's got armor.
No, it doesn't.
And again, you play this like a heavy tank sort of second line. If you don't play it front line, you play it sort of second line, then yeah, you'll do a really, really good job.
Okay, but these are newer players, and again, you make the argument that, oh, if you make a misplay in the STB or the Patton, you'll die instantly. But then you're saying that this tank, you'll do fine in if you play second line. But a newer player doesn't know what that means. They're just going to try and drive front line. They're going to get no bounces. We've all seen the noob 57 Heavy players who drive out sideways, clip you, and then die. Okay.
So that is quite far, the reason why this is quite far down.
I'm just curious to see, very briefly, where the T57 Heavy is performing in the category for heavies. And this is before the nerf, obviously. I'm just curious to see. Yeah, pretty mediocre. I'm going to be real. Pretty mediocre. Right next to the Kranvagn and the 50B, because obviously the Super Conk VK90 are both premiums. So yeah, it's performing right next to the 50B and Kranvagn in performance-wise there. Not really sure how you would rate this tank, you know, worse than a Mouse E100, but okay. And the other thing I should point out is, again, this is 10.2 before the vehicle lost 400 DPM. Okay.
Down the list. Number 11, which I think is a little bit better for a newer player, is, of course, the Yo.
Okay, I mean, the Yo is not a very noob-friendly tank because it's a vehicle, if you position improperly in, will get nuked. Like, it hits hard. It's got 2500 DPM with the double shot, 3k DPM with the triple shot. It deals 900 damage with both guns, just different intervals of clipping time, yada yada yada. Super deadly tank. But it doesn't have a lot of armor. If you poke sideways, you can get crapped on. I don't disagree with him here. I'm not going to fully disagree, because I do think the Yo is a pretty good tank. But again, the E100 is just better.
Now, if you play this with the 3-shot gun or the 2-shot gun, either way, if you play it with the 2-shot gun, of course, you've got to make sure that you pen your shots to make it worthwhile. If you're not going to pen one of your shots, then you might as well play it with the 3-shot gun. So as long as they take notice, they take care of what they're shooting, it's got armor, it's got a little bit of speed, it's got a good rate of fire for what it is, and I think, yeah, people, newer players, won't perform too bad in the Yo.
I don't fully disagree with his opinion there, but it's still not a tank that I would consider very good for new players, because it's a hull-down tank. And a lot of people, just like the Kranvagn, don't do that hull-down playstyle.
We have the top 10. So number 10, we have gone for the Hori. Now,
the Hori, really. The Hori is your 10th best tank destroyer. I just keep going back and forth on blitz analysis, because that's really all I need to do. I mean, there's the Hori, right next to the Foch, guys. There it is. 268's doing better, E3's doing better, 113 GFT, E4, Jag, Minnow. Why is the Hori up here? Don't get me wrong, it's a strong tank. It's got a great gun, and it's even got decent armor. It's still got good mobility, but it's not a top 10 performer for new players. I would never recommend a brand new player to grind the Hori. It is not an easy line to grind. The tier 9 and 8 are pretty challenging, and this vehicle requires to actually have some common sense. It's not a tank you can just YOLO in.
Because a lot of people playing it, a lot of new players playing this will just sit at the back. They're going to camp, and even...
I don't really agree with that at all. How many people do you see YOLOing in Horis? I see it quite often.
Camping, it's got speed to get away, and it's got penetration. They'll be able to penetrate you, like, no problem whatsoever. And that's the only reason I've added this in as one of the best tank destroyers to play for a new player.
So, you've added this to the number 10 slot because it's got mobility to get away, and it's got a good gun for penning people. Okay, so why isn't the 268 here? The 268 has more mobility than the Hori. It has just as accurate of a gun. It hits harder. It has better camo, and it's half the size with more troll armor. Again, The logic behind these decisions don't make sense.
They'll penetrate you very, very easily.
They will.
As long as they're sat at the back using it as a tank destroyer. Of course, you play it front line, then yeah, they're just going to get ripped apart. Number 9, we have another tank destroyer, and we've gone for the E3. E3 is a super, super strong tank.
No. Don't get me wrong, the E3 is strong. I mean, again, we've got the TDs listed right here. The E3 it's a decent performer. It's right next to the 113 GFT, a little bit after the E4. But here's the thing about this vehicle. It's incredibly slow. It has the worst power to weight in tier 10 of 8. Even with super speed boost, it does not have the mobility. There's a lot of games, even I play as a super skilled player, that you don't have the positional advantage to maneuver against mediums or lights. This tank gets tracked because of its terrible side armor, terrible track wheel, autoloader's crap on it, mediums get behind it, it has no reverse speed, and it has a hard-hitting gun, but it doesn't really have a lot of DPM. Don't get me wrong, it's a great haul-down tank, but as you've said multiple times, not everybody knows how to drive these vehicles haul-down. I would not recommend it in the number 9 slot. I wouldn't say it's outside of this area, maybe in 15th or 16th, next to the Minnow, but it's definitely not in the top 10.
Even really need to do too much. You just need to drive up to the enemy and shoot them. But the fact that it hasn't got a turret can be the downfall for a new player. But again, if they sit front line or even sort of second or even third line, they will perform quite well in the tank. The tank speaks for itself, you know. The tank itself does the work. The player don't so much need to do the work in the E3. The tank does it all itself.
I don't really know what that means, to be fair. I mean, I guess you're saying it has good armor, so you don't need to do much. Okay, what happens if you have 2 tanks shooting at you from different angles, or you have a medium on your rear and a heavy on the front? Good luck.
So that is why it's quite far down the list. Moving on, at number 8, we've gone for the VK72. Again, kind of like the E3, really. Frontally, it's got really good armor. If you start to angle, then the side armor becomes quite weak.
What are you saying? This tank is comparable to an E3. First of all, the lower plate on the VK90 is dookie. It's strong against AP ammo. Everybody, including noobs, know what gold rounds are. If they see a tank that's red, they're going to tap that 2 key, or they're going to double tap that premium round, and they're going to pen you every single shot in the lower plate. And yes, angling this vehicle does make the sides worse.
But a new player is not really going to know how to angle. They're just going to drive forward. And that's where this tank is actually strongest. When you're just driving forward, not trying to angle.
That is completely incorrect. To a out of this world take there. The VK72 only gets bounces when you are angling the lower plate like this around a corner, baiting people into shooting the lower plate and then poking and shooting them. That is how the armor works. The only other way the VK72 armor works is you're hull down and you're using the rounded turn on a ridgeline, kind of like Mines or Dead Rail Hill. Apart from that, the armor on this tank is worse in just about every way than an E100. How you can possibly say that driving forwards is the best way to use this tank is so wrong on so many different levels. If you're on a map like Desert Sands and you poke somebody, driving frontally out because you're sticking your massive track wheels around the corner first, you're going to get tracked, you're going to get crapped on by TDs, by autoloaders. No. I would be easily willing to say the Mouse and E100 are both better tanks for newer players than the VK72. Literally any day of the week. Any day of the week. And yet you've left those 2 vehicles in the dust saying you need to angle them. And this tank you don't need to angle, and yet this is the one that you need to angle the most in. No.
The tank is quite strong, which is why it is in my top 10. Number 7, we have gone for another heavy tank. This time, the 60 TP.
Okay. I mean, don't get me wrong, 60's got a great gun, but it's also one of the worst guns in the game. Its accuracy is terrible. It has such bad dispersion. Its aiming time did get buffed in the latest update. Its alpha got buffed. It's got great gun depression, good mobility. It's a fantastic heavy. So I do agree that this is somewhere in the top 10 of heavies. It's just absolutely fantastic. Do I think this is better than an E100? No. Do I think this is better than a VK72? No. Do I think this is better than a Mouse? No. But I do think it's a very strong heavy. It's got a lot of great things going for it. It's got a lot of HP, decent mobility, so that's a pretty solid thing about this vehicle. But people have to understand how to equip this tank. There's a lot of different provisions, consumables, and options to use on this vehicle, which will get the average person quite bogged down and confused. So do keep that in mind.
Just like the VK, really. If you drive forward, you've got armor, you know.
No. Do not take that advice if you are a new player. Do not drive outside of cover in the open in a 60 TP. It has some of the worst track wheels, one of the worst ammo racks, and its entire hull can be penned by premium shells. Easily, too. Like, heat shells butter right through the upper plate. The 60 TP is a hull-down tank. You use the turret, you use the gun depression, you hide the hull. 90% of the time, if you want to do well in this vehicle, take my advice as a top player on the NA server, use the vehicle hull down.
Yes, you got weak points, but people have to really aim at them weak points.
No, they don't. They shoot your track wheel.
Part front plate, some on the front plate, some on the turret. But yeah, as long as a player's moving, you're going to make it difficult for people to penetrate you. With the high alpha as well, they're still going to be able to do a bit of damage.
I also want to point out to you that if you're moving, as if he says, your accuracy is going to be literal trash. Like, don't do that. Please don't. Just use it hull down.
So I think it's a really good heavy tank for a newer, less experienced kind of player. Now, number 6, the reason I've added this tank, a lot of you will probably disagree, but I've added...
Do I need to say anything else? Like, seriously, do I need to say anything else? Let's hear Meetsy's thought process. I'll give him a fair shot to describe why the 183 is the most noob-friendly tank destroyer. Let's hear.
The FV215B 183. Literally, because all people were going to do is sit at the back of the map and fire. As long as they hit one shot or even 2 shots, if they hit 2 shots in a game, they've done 2,000 damage. They've done enough. And most new player is going to want to play the tank because of the alpha. That's all people want to play this tank for, is because of that alpha. And if they could just sit at the back of the map, they're going to get them shots off. And as long as they hit, they're going to do damage, and they're really going to hurt the enemy team. So it's one of the less performing tanks in the game, but still for a new player, I still think it's quite easy, because all you need to do is sit there and freaking shoot.
That is the worst take I have ever heard from any Blitz YouTuber ever. And I've heard some bad takes. That right there is the worst take I've ever heard. Yes, if you pen 2 shots, you will deal 1,900 damage. If you pen. Notice how you said if. If I ammo rack 2 players, I will kill them. Okay. First of all, the 183 is the least accurate tier 10 in the entire game. It actually got worse than the latest update. It has the worst camo, the worst armor, and the worst mobility for all tier 10 tank destroyers. And you're going to sit here and tell me that this is the most effective tank. What? I could easily argue that the 113 GFT, I could probably argue my shoe would be more effective than the average new player in a 183. First of all, you're telling players to grind the 183, which is the worst line to grind in the game. You have to start at the AT2, then go to the AT8, then the AT7, then the AT15, and then the Tortoise. Would you like to know the top speed of every one of those vehicles? It's 20. Okay. And your highest alpha is going to be 400 on the tier 9 TD. Your highest alpha on the tier 8 is going to be 225. Your highest alpha on the tier 7 is going to be 200. I mean, not only are you suggesting newer players to grind the hardest line for newer players to grind in the game, but you are also suggesting them to grind the worst performing tier 10 next to the Grille. Right there. I'm sorry. There is not a single argument that you can make to the 183 being an effective tier 10. It doesn't matter what anybody says. This is the worst tank that you could have picked to make this list. And I don't know what to say. I'm very disappointed in this, because some new player's going to see this, and I guarantee they're going to be like, wow, he ranked the 183 high. I guess it's not that bad. Well, I'm going to go grind it. Whoa! And then I'm going to have to deal with that player who occasionally pens 1 shell on my vehicle and ruins my fun. They don't win, 90% of the times the 183 players even hesh me. They still don't win the game. They die right after. Congrats, you've done 1,300 damage, now you're dead. What you're telling these players is that they should always just do crap, do 2 shots of damage, and die, and be happy with that. Rather than actually learning from their mistakes, driving vehicles that have skill levels, and they can increase their skill. One of the worst opinions I've ever heard. Seriously.
So that is why it's quite far down the list. Now, moving on, we are at my
183.
top 5. So we've gone for heavy.
Thank God he didn't put it in the top 5. Imagine.
I think they're almost all heavies now. I think I've got one more tank destroyer here. We've gone for the IS-7. IS-7 is...
This is the 5th best? I'm very excited to see what the other 4 are. Very excited.
Super strong. The armor is absolutely fine. The reason why it's number 5 and not further down is because it has that pike nose. Newer players, if they try and angle, then that is when their pike nose, their front plate, becomes a lot weaker.
Wrong. The pike nose on the IS-7 is incredibly thick. It is over 330 base. Even if you angle it sideways, all standard rounds are going to bounce it unless you have Cali and high pen standard. You're going to have to load heat to cut through it. And if you're looking at the angled pike nose, you can shoot the lower plate or you can shoot the track wheel at that point. So that literally doesn't make any sense. Here's the weirdest part about this argument. Again, Meadsy being completely hypocritical with what he said in the past. Well, if they're driving the E100, they're not going to know how to angle it, blah, blah, blah. So that's why the 60 TP and the 60 TP and VK72 are super solid, because people aren't going to angle and they're going to drive straight out. And yet you don't make that argument for the dumbest of all the tanks to drive straight? This would have been your actual good argument for driving straight into the open and getting bounces due to the troll side armor, the pike nose getting bounces, the turret being incredible, no hatches. And this is the one time you say driving it is bad. What? Don't get me wrong, I agree that it's in the top 5. But why would you ever say that the armor is not good on the pike? That doesn't make any sense. The thing that I've noticed is that almost all the vehicles that got changes to their guns, you have not played. The IS-7 has no ammo in it, which means that you have not played the tank since the actual update. The IS-7 got a pen buff, and now it's tungsten, and it got 100 extra HP. Easily the best tier 10 heavy for any new player.
So they really need to just look at the enemy, hide the lower plate as much as they can, and the tank will then do the rest. Absolutely fantastic tank, and that is why it is in my top 5. The next tank I'm not loving so much now, but again, for years it still speaks for itself.
For years, it speaks for itself, but you're not loving it right now. You know why that is? Because Wargaming nerfed the crap out of it. The IS-4 is the tier 10 Soviet tech tree heavy that is no longer really a heavy. Almost every single player, their brother, and their mother knows why this tank is no longer really that good. It has no upper plate armor, its lower plate has no armor, it has no side scraping armor. Any video I showcase the IS-4 being shot at, people point out how bad it is, and yet you're putting it in 4th place above the massively buffed IS-7. What? No, you can't be real. It's either you just haven't played the IS-7 in the latest update, or you don't realize the IS-4 got nerfed on the armor. The
IS-4, a lot is, for new players, they will get away with. It's got good armor.
No,
really
not
good
anymore.
armor profile.
No,
like
not anymore. It doesn't have good armor anymore. That's wrong.
Areas, you can angle with the tank.
Okay, I guess, but not really. It's got a corner cutout, which you can bend pretty easily.
It will learn you. It will teach you how to go hold down.
No, it won't. I mean, sure, you can, like, I guess use the 6 degrees of gun depression. This is not a tank that's going to teach you to go hold down, though. That would be more like a T110E5 or a 5A, you know, something that actually has decent gun depression, a 60 TP, a Kranvagn, you know, that, not an IS-4. This is not a tank that hold down pops into my mind when I'm playing. This tank pops into my mind city fighting.
It will teach you how to side scrape. It will teach you how to do just about anything. So that's why I've got the IS-4 better than the IS-7 for a new player. Now, my top...
But you didn't compare the gun, the mobility, the armor. You didn't say anything on why it's better. You just said it's a good tank. Okay.
Top 3.
Did you know that the IS-4 also lost 300 hit points in the latest update, going from 2,800 and something to 2,500? Yeah, pretty big nerf there too.
Tanks in tier 10 for newer players. Now, number 3, we've gone for the E4. Now, I thought I would never ever add this tank into the game, but...
What? You thought they would never, ever add this tank into the game, wait.
Gone for the E4. Now, I thought I would never, ever add this tank into the game, but now Wargaming have buffed the
Huh? Maybe he means the list.
Turret on this thing. It's got a turret, unlike the E3. If the E3 had a turret, it'll probably be number 1.
The E3 does have a turret. It's called the E4. I mean, the thing's just got as much turret armor, and the gun's actually better, so... Yeah, I mean, this is just a better E3.
But yeah, this has definitely overtaken the E3 for easy
Agreed.
tanks to play for new players. And again, it's got good penetration. It's got good, decent speed for what it is. It's got high alpha. And Wargaming have really made it quite easy for new players to play the game.
Okay, well, let's take a look at where it's performing when it comes to tank destroyers. Minnow, yeah, E4. Okay, it's doing good. It's right next to the 113 GFT in performance. Do I think this is a top 3 vehicle? No. All the top 3 tanks should be heavies. The E4 does not have nearly the health, something like the E100 does, and it doesn't have nearly the reverse speed. I mean, as I've talked about in the past, tank destroyers are just worse than heavies for newer players, and they are worse in general for winning. Do not recommend for people to grind a TD as their first line. Recommend people to go for heavies. All the top 5 tanks should be E100, Mouse, IS-7, 60 TP, E5, things like that. Not the E4. But okay, let's keep going.
Number 2, we've gone for the E5. Now, the E5, of course, isn't as good as it once was, but...
What do you mean it was? What? It's better right now than it's ever been. It just got 2,900 DPM now. It's got insane accuracy, more than it's ever had. Its aiming time is crazy good. It got a mobility buff when it removes speed boost. And who gives a crap about reactive? Because it doesn't do anything. So, no, E5's really good now. Like, fantastic.
But it is an all-rounder. It's got armor, it's got speed, it's got good DPM. It's got everything that a tank needs, like, to learn everything.
That's crazy. It's almost like I said that about the Patton. And do you know what he said about the Patton? He said it has weak hull armor. Didn't the E5's hull get nerfed in the latest update on the upper and lower plate? And the side armor?
So yeah, the E5 is still one of the easiest tanks to play for a new player. Yeah, of course, some people are going to get ripped apart. And of course, some people are not going to agree with my opinion here. But yeah, overall, with the speed, the DPM, the armor, I do think it is quite easy for a new player. Number 1...
Okay, so wait a sec. We're at 23 seconds on the video. Let me go back to where he showcases the Patton, which is right here, right? Listen to what he says.
And it is the Patton. Now, the reason this is quite far down the list, because, yes, it's got good DPM, it's got a fantastic turret, but that is about it. You know, it's a very tall tank. The hull on the tank is very, very weak. So if you don't play this correctly, which is basically in a hold down position, then you are not going to perform well at all.
If I changed the name of the Patton to the E5 and read that exact script, you would think I'm talking about the E5. You wouldn't even question I'm talking about the Patton. Because everything he just said is exactly the same for the E5. It has a super solid turret, great DPM, decent mobility, and a weaker type of hull. Okay, so... just completely hypocritical here, saying the Patton is one of the worst. Again, Patton is in 37th place, and yet he's putting the E5 in 2nd, even though essentially the Patton is just the medium version of a T110 E5. Let's just go back. I'm not even going to bother to complain, because you already understand my point. It's, yeah.
Is still one of the easiest. The armor. Now, this tank isn't as good as it once was. It really isn't. But I still think it is a fantastic tank. I really do. And to be honest, I can't even freaking find it.
That's
Where
because you're not checked on Japan.
There we go. What am I doing? we've gone for the Type 71. Now, the Type 71's got, just like the E5, it's got everything. Armor is absolutely incredible. The gun, the equipment that it uses, where you can...
What do you mean the gun? I mean, it's got a strong gun, it's got premium AP, but it doesn't have a really good gun. It's okay, you know?
Get either improved suspension or more gun depression. It's got everything a new player wants. Now, it's not as quick, the mobility is not as good as it once was, but it is still decent enough for new players to bounce people, to do damage. And overall, I still think that currently the Type 71 is the best tank in Tier 10 for new players. The less experienced players, you'll get away with a lot with the Type 71. So that is it.
Okay, I agree with that. I agree that the Type is at least a top 3 vehicle, because it is fantastic. I mean, I've many times talked about why this is one of the best vehicles for newer players. It has 2 different playstyles due to the not combat stabilization, the improved suspension and improved V-stabs, which is really, really cool. The vehicle's got incredible armor. The gun just got flat buffed in the latest update, which actually makes it better than it really ever was, even before the mobility, in my opinion. Tank's just absolutely incredible. So I agree with her. I agree with Mitzi there. If I were to rank the best and worst tier 10s, let's just say like I wanted to do the top 3 vehicles, E100, Type 71, IS7. That's easily 1, 2, and 3. I mean, those are just the best heavies. I am not going to make an entire tier list today because this has been a ridiculously long video as it is, and I'm just not going to do that because it's really late, and yeah, it's 1 in the morning. I just spent my entire energy recording this, so yeah. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is my 1.5 hour long breakdown of Mitzi's list of tanks that you should and should not grind. Listen, I don't have anything wrong with Mitzi, and there's going to be people out there that, like, cry in my comment section, keep your opinions to yourself. I don't really care. My job as a content creator is to make sure that everybody is getting proper information and not being fed incorrect things. And you can make whatever opinion you want. You can make 10,000 videos saying how the 183 is the best tier 10. Does it make it any right? No. And my job is to have an unbiased perspective. It doesn't matter whether it's a YouTuber or somebody in my comment section. If you make really bad points and you are affecting other people's games and even lives by making them decide what lines they're going to go for, then I am going to make a stand against that. And that is what today's video is for. If Midzi would like to come onto one of my live streams and dispute his points and why a vehicle is doing so well or whatever, he can. I fully implore him to do so. But as of right now, this is my take. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.